Joining us now is Dr. Shika Jain. She is a board-certified physician in hematology and oncology. So, Dr. Jain, let's start with these malaria cases, if you don't mind. Is this cause for concern?
I don't think it's cause for panic, but I do think it's cause for concern. And I really think we need to look at the underlying reason why we haven't seen malaria in 20 years and we're seeing it now. And some of it can be attributed to climate change. We're seeing more warm weather for longer periods of time. We're seeing environments that might be more amenable for mosquitoes that are carrying malaria to live in these warmer climates. So again, emphasizing that this is not a contagious disease. You cannot catch it from someone else, but you can catch it from mosquitoes.
Calling malaria.
The first case of malaria has been diagnosed in the United States in 20 years. I'm Dr. Hassan, board-certified trauma anesthesiologist. And just today, news reports out of Florida and Texas have reported that 5 individuals have been infected with malaria.
Calling malaria a medical emergency. The CDC says the cases were hundreds of miles apart, 4 in Florida and 1 in Texas. No evidence to suggest they're related. But what they do have in common is no link to travel abroad. The last time malaria was transmitted locally in the U.S. was 2003. Tonight, the CDC says mosquito surveillance and control have been implemented. Malaria isn't contagious, but the parasite that causes it is transmitted by certain mosquitoes.
Now, today's news might not be about mystery sky sounds or cryptic creatures, but trust me when I say it's every bit as creepy. It's about an invader that's so tiny you might not see it coming. That's right, we're talking about the tiny mosquito carrying something nasty, malaria. Now, before you hit the panic button, stick around and let's try to understand this together. So what's the buzz all about? Well, it seems that the CDC has rung the alarm bells about malaria in the U.S. for the first time in 20 years. We've got cases of malaria transmitted within our borders. I'm not talking about folks catching the bug overseas and bringing it home. No, these mosquitoes got all entrepreneurial and started their own homegrown business. Right now, there are 5 cases on the books, 4 in sunny Florida and 1 in good old Texas. If you're thinking, what the hell is malaria? Well, let me enlighten you, folks. Malaria is a pretty grim disease caused by a parasite that's spread by the Anopheles mosquito. This nasty little bugger can cause all sorts of grief, including high fevers, pounding headaches, shaking chills, muscle aches, and even more terrifying, if untreated, it can lead to seizures, kidney failure, coma, and death. Yikes! Now, before we get all crazy and start wearing mosquito net suits, let's take a step back. While it's indeed an infectious disease, it's not spread from person to person. No, it needs a special little vehicle to do its dirty work. Our mosquito buddy, so you can't get it from shaking hands, sharing drinks, or even a sloppy smooch. The bad news? You can get it from blood transfusions and needle sharing with an infected person.
However, you have to be aware that this virus is real. It is in Florida, it is in Texas, and it can be potentially life-threatening because it can cause seizures, coma, kidney damage, and heart damage, all of which could unalive.
Now, what if I told you that just last year, over 2 million genetically modified mosquitoes were released in Florida and California? Oh, the plot thickens, doesn't it? But before you start thinking of a sci-fi apocalypse, there's more to this.
Hi, I'm Scott O'Neill here in Medellin, Colombia today, and I'm at the world's biggest mosquito factory for the World Mosquito Program. We're making in here 30 million mosquitoes a week. Come and have a look.
A claim had surfaced earlier this year that these mosquitoes even had barcodes and were released by none other than tech tycoon and philanthropist Bill Gates.
Malaria is, of course, transmitted by mosquitoes. I brought some here so you could experience this. We'll let those roam around the auditorium a little bit. There. There's no reason only poor people should have the experience.
That's right. The very same guy who gave us Windows also apparently gave us barcode-clad mosquitoes. But alas, fact-checkers over at Reuters squashed this claim, saying it was false. The video in question wasn't about mosquitoes at all, but aphids, those pesky plant bugs. But hold on, our friend Mr. Gates isn't entirely out of the mosquito business. The billionaire did release mosquitoes on 2 occasions. The first time was back in 2009 at a TED conference to raise awareness about malaria. How very meta for our conversation, don't you think? Those mosquitoes were harmless, not capable of spreading any disease. But in 2021, things took a different turn. The Gates Foundation funded a biotech company's experiment to combat mosquito-borne diseases in Florida. And yes, they released genetically modified mosquitoes. These critters were modified to reduce their reproduction, hence lowering the overall mosquito population. We've got local malaria cases for the first time in 2 decades, and they're happening in the same state where genetically modified mosquitoes were released. Is it all just a massive coincidence, or is there more to this story?
So, I don't know about y'all, but growing up, the mosquitoes did not look like this. The mosquitoes I grew up with were like silver? Like, they look like actual bugs. What is this GMO shit? What is this? What is this?
And while we're on the topic, it does make one question the ethical implications of releasing genetically modified mosquitoes into the wild. Are we opening Pandora's box? Tinkering with Mother Nature in ways we don't fully understand? As for treatment, it's diagnosed via a blood test that can spot the parasite. There are several drugs out there to treat it, but the main thing is getting treatment started ASAP. Is there a vaccine? Yes, indeed. In 2021, the World Health Organization started recommending the use of the first and only malaria vaccine in regions with high levels of malaria transmission. But note, it's not generally recommended for travelers at the moment. So what can we do to dodge this bullet? Besides popping prophylactic meds, try to avoid mosquito bites. Easier said than done, I know. Long sleeves, pants, Delaware, ET-based repellents, and mosquito netting can be your best friends. And remember, mosquitoes love standing water, so make sure to get rid of it around your home. As for how worried you should be, according to Dr. Liana Wen, for those of us not jetting off to malaria hotspots, the risk of catching malaria is extremely low. So while you should always take precautions against mosquito bites, don't feel the need to go overboard with anti-malaria measures unless you're heading off to malaria-prone regions. Remember, stay informed, stay safe, and let's all hope this particular creepy story has a happy ending. Don't forget to subscribe to Legend Discoveries for more updates and eerie tales. Keep it creepy, folks.